Welcome, everybody. We're going to get going in a minute or so. I'm just going to ask Dmitrii if he can test out his mic and camera so we can see him. Is that possible, Dmitrii?
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
We can. Perfect.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Sounds good. We'll start in 1 minute.
So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen as well.
Great.
Yep, I can see your screen. Okay, welcome everyone to QPW number 18, I believe. Thank you so much for joining us today again for this seminar, and very excited to welcome today Dmitrii Tolkachev. My Russian pronunciation I know is poor, but we're very excited to have Dmitrii with us today to talk about such an important part of the world and such an important issue of rights and legal provisions that I know us in North America and Europe are often starved of good information about. So I'd really like to applaud not only Dmitrii's academic work, but also his courage in continuing to be such a visible and impressive scholar and advocate for human rights in his own country. And I know many of us are advocates around the world, but don't always have the same type of challenges that some of our colleagues in the more difficult places in the world have. So we will do the same format as we usually do. We're going to take about half of our hour with a presentation from Dmitrii, who's going to tell us about some of the legal aspects of Russia and its constitution and Putin's engagement with LGBTQ rights and the LGBTQ's population's engagement with the state and society in Russia today. I want to leave a good long period for questions, comments, because I know many of you will be keen to quiz Dmitrii on his work and the state of play in Russia today. Just to introduce Dmitrii, he is based at the Moscow School for Economics, the Moscow Higher School of Economics, and works on a variety of issues in comparative and domestic politics around law, about the propaganda law, and about the movement of peoples and social views and social tolerance in that country and in Eastern Central Europe. So without further ado, hopefully our internet will reach around the world and everything will stay set. And I'll hand it over to Dmitrii to present to us today on being LGBTQ Russia in Russia today, law and society. So thank you.
Hi, I forgot to on the mic. You can hear me now. Thank you. So today I will talk about my future PhD thesis a little bit, and some maybe main things about public opinion and law changes. As you know, now we have a new constitution, Putin's constitution. So it's new world for us, new ideas based on this constitution will change probably public opinion and change lives of LGBT people. So next. Yeah, so Russia decriminalized homosexuality in 1993 after Soviet Union collapse. As you know, we had in the Soviet Union an article for same-sex relationships for men. So it was prosecuted by penal code. And 4 years later, after decriminalization, homosexuality was demedicalized. But now a lot of people still think that homosexuality is a disease. So after this period of New Russia, it was some could say that it was freely time for LGBT community, but some people in parliament still wanted to renew the Soviet law or prohibit homosexual propaganda. So after 2006 in Russian regions, the idea of homosexual propaganda prohibition started to be popular, if I could say it. And after a few years, federal law which prohibits propaganda of non-traditional sexual relationship was accepted. So after the federal law, Russian government banned children adoption for gay couples. And a few years later, in parliament, guy from QPW, this is Communist Party, proposed to ban coming outs. Of course, this idea was disapproved, and we haven't this law, but they had this idea. So for me, I think that this propaganda law, it's not only discrimination of gays and lesbians, but also this is part of Russian corruption. I have here two examples when police opened gay clubs and hired teenagers, and then they ask the clients to pay the bribe to them. They blackmail them. And another case, probably you know, the Chechnya case. So there we had the same story when people who was in prison, they paid bribes to go out and leave the region. I'm trying in my thesis evaluate this law, this idea of propaganda, and I choose the argumentative approach of policy evaluation and think that we can't use numbers to evaluate this law, because we know some cases of course, some cases from the courts when sorry. And again, we don't know cases. Sorry, so we know only cases which are against activists or against people who open to discuss this case. And some people, of course, silenced, and we don't know, for example, that they charge of propaganda. So this first law, regional law from Ryazan region, it's not far from Moscow. They prohibited public actions that propagandize homosexuality. So no one in Ryazan haven't seen these public actions. So of course they haven't pride parades. They haven't prides. They haven't open gay people in the region. So why they prohibited? It's still the question for all Russian society. But after that, Russian activists came to Constitutional Court, and Constitutional Court explained them and us that propaganda is purposeful and uncontrolled dissemination of information. What information? Of course, about homosexuality, about positive views on homosexuality. And it's really interesting that Constitutional Court after 2006 used this document from 2006 when they discuss new constitution. So some years later in Arkhangelsk, it's north of Russia, regional deputies also prohibited propaganda of homosexuality. They explained that the West trying to impose non-traditional values, Western values, homosexual values on their region, and some NGOs used Western money to propagandize homosexuality. So, and as you maybe know, we have now a restriction in Russia that prohibits to some NGO have finances from abroad. So, and after that, Supreme Court of Russia also, after appeals of gay activists, wrote that homosexuality, it's actually attraction and sex. It's about attitudes. And homosexuality, it's not Russian tradition. We have a traditional definition of family, which of course, mom and children, they forgot to add fathers there. And after that, in some regions, deputies tried to ban propaganda of sodomia, of transgenderness, of pedophilia, and homosexuality, homosexualism. It's in Russian they used, so it's not very good connotation actually in Russian. So it's a real mashup of words, and they of course don't have definition of them. And after that, in 2013, our State Duma proposed to ban non-traditional sexual relationship. Of course, they tried to mention homosexuality, but they can't use the word homosexuality, so they change it for non-traditional sexual relationship. So how it was possible? Actually, nothing changed in Russia for 20 years. Levada Center have public polls from 1998, and they asked people, what is homosexuality? So till 2015, about 40% of Russians answered that homosexuality is disease. About another 40% people answered that homosexuality is a result of bad parenting. This is a result of seduction. So they think that homosexuality is deviation. And about 10% of people think that homosexuality is sexual orientation. What's interesting here that 90% of these people don't know homosexuals personally. So of course they hate people and they don't know these people. 40% of Russians believe that discrimination should be punished. Discrimination based on sexual orientation. So they don't know what homosexuality is, but Russians believe that all discrimination should be punished. Of course, when if Russians don't know personally any gay or lesbian, they feel fear, disgust if they think that homosexuality is disease, for example. So I use the coloring here. The red one, this is disease answers. The pink one, this is deviation. Yellow one, seduction, and green one, sexual orientation. So Russians feel fear and disgust when they think about homosexuality if they think that homosexuality is disease. And they feel annoyance or alertness if they think that homosexuality is disease or deviation. So, and of course, without emotion, they answer that when they think that homosexuality is sexual orientation. Another fun fact here that Russians still think that adults have no rights to enter in same-sex relationships by mutual consent. So here we have three coloring. Red one, when people think that homosexuality is disease, of course they totally against, 68%. If the pink one, it's when they think that homosexuality is deviation, still they against the right to enter into relationship. And even if they think that homosexuality is sexual orientation, 33% think that adults have no right to enter same-sex relationship by mutual consent. So according to this public opinion, gays and lesbians could not be in relationships. So a lot of people think that this is just sexual attraction. Of course, Russian propaganda law changed this idea of nature, the view on the nature of homosexuality in Russian perception. So here we have the graph of from Google Trends. So it's query homosexual propaganda. And Russians started to Google it after first law in St. Petersburg. It was original law in St. Petersburg, and it was covered by media. It was the most discussing case of this law, because St. Petersburg, kind of our cultural city, cultural capital. So then the next time people started to look to Google gay propaganda after federal law in 2013, and next time in the period of Olympic Games. And because it also here we discussed the situation with LGBT community and human rights in Russia. So of course, this is totally constructed idea of propaganda, and even according to this graph, we can say that Russian citizens didn't know about propaganda and didn't discuss it, and even didn't Google, because they wasn't interested in this topic. So for now, still more than half of Russians have negative attitudes toward gays and lesbians, and still they don't know people, LGBTIQ people. But again, this is data from year ago, yeah. And what's significant here, that a lot of Russians, 64%, believe that their sexual orientation could change under influence of other people, other circumstances. So they think that not that sexuality is fluid and it's okay when it could be changed. They think that sexuality can change, but of course it should be only heterosexual one sexual orientation. What changed after after propaganda law? Yeah. Trying to, yeah. So we have a new constitution, and in chapter 3, where the federal structure is discussed, we have new article about protection of family, motherhood and fatherhood in childhood. And then it's written that Russian Federation and the regions of Russian Federation protect the institution of marriage as a union between man and woman. So it doesn't mean actually that Russia tried to prohibit gay marriages, same-sex marriages. It's just idea that they want to protect traditional marriage. And then they add to chapter 6, where discuss government of the Russian Federation, that Russian government should support and protect families and preserve traditional family values. Before this constitutional change, our constitutional court made a huge document why this constitution is okay and why it's linked with a constitution, first our constitution. And Constitutional Court answered to these articles that this is not state's obligation to propagandize, support, and recognize same-sex marriages. So they really think that West and Western countries propagandize, support, and recognize same-sex marriages, and they want to influence to Russian law and Russian public opinion. But also they have, from my side, I'm an optimistic guy. They had the short part that Russia should prohibit discrimination on based on sexual orientation. Of course, they think that if they try to prohibit same-sex marriages, this is not discrimination, but it's the first step to the law, I think, about discrimination prohibition. So, and now we are discussing in Russia a new family code written by Elena Mizurina, who is an author of propaganda law, federal law. And in her project, we have same-sex marriage ban, of course. So, because before it wasn't prohibited, and we even haven't definition of marriage. And another sad story. This is articles about discriminated trans community, because they, of course, should change their birth certificates, and probably it could be led to some restrictions with their marriages and children protection. So probably I have like 5 minutes.
No, that's fine. You go on. That's fine. That's good.
Because it's just not.
No, it's fine. Yeah, take another 5 at least.
So this is a part of project with my students. They analyzed 40 cases of law implementation in media, because in our courts database we found about 15 million files, and we need to analyze them, because it would be one case but thousands, thousand files. So how law is implemented? It implemented against activists, and they pay penalties. We can't organize pride and protest, because it's impossible to organize peaceful protest in Russia. What about media? All queer media could be blocked if they haven't the sign 18+. And a lot of porn sources after also blocked. And companies, if they also have products with mentioned homosexuality, for example, and they haven't signed 18+, they could pay penalties. So, of course, this is Russia, and our laws could work differently, and some gay people, transgender people, accused in child molestation, pornography distribution, human trafficking, and just like in Chechnya, they persecuted and in secret prisons. So it's mean that, for example, one gay man participated in YouTube show and talked with children about homosexuality. So according to propaganda law, Of course, it's propaganda case, but they faces pedophilia felony. And the newest case, the Russian Investigate Committee has charged gay men, single gay fathers on child trafficking. Because of course they used IVF, and it's impossible to, according to them, it's not possible to gay people have children, and of course they used IVF just for human trafficking. So authorities can't use propaganda law or don't want to use it, and always try to find a new article of a criminal court to against LGBTQ community. So I think we can skip Putin's discourse and authority discourse, because he always speaking about human rights and how he want to protect LGBT community, and even just a year ago he finally said the word LGBT and tried to say that T is Transformers. How perceptions of school students changed. So about 75% of school children think that same-sex marriages is fine, so it's about family, it's about marriage. They totally for equality. It was our short project in two schools from two regions. And finally, part about LGBT community. Here you can see the map with Russian regions, colored regions. This is regions where propaganda law was discussed or was accepted, and these stars, this is queries from Yandex. Yandex, it's like Russian Google. So queries of words lesbian, gay, or gay porn. So of course, a lot of regions where we have propaganda law, people started to looking gay porn and going, they went online instead of offline, because the offline for them it's not safe. And of course it's Caucasus, it's Chechnya, and regions near Chechnya, and other regions where situation with LGBT rights also not so good. So, and I haven't time to discuss discourses of Russians gays and lesbians. Maybe it will be for someday next time. Here my idea for just for my thesis is that this law not only about discrimination, this law also about corruption. This is one way to bribe gays and lesbians to keep their secret from workplace or parents. And here just two main citations about corruption. So, and I think I should stop here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dmitrii. Let me make a call to participants. Send me a chat message if you'd like to be on the comment list. I'm sure you have lots of interesting questions about this. So send me a message and I'll put you on the list. Before I turn to Phil Ayoub, I just wanted to ask a more sort of practical question about your work, Dmitrii. Could you tell us a little bit about your capacity, your space, your ability to do the surveys, to do the polling, to do the lecturing, to do the studies in the realm that you're studying? What is your space for movement as an academic working on LGBTQ issues in Russia today? I mean, how do you navigate that?
So yeah, you mean could you rephrase, please, because probably I didn't get.
So my question is, how difficult is it for you and your team to do this
in
work?
Russian academia, or
Sorry, can you hear me?
To be open gay in Russian academia, or
Well, yes, but also to study these issues, to try and cast a light on these issues, not just being openly gay, but also to study the issue.
from I think that it's not a problem. Maybe because of my university. So for one article, we went to 2 schools and we asked children about gender and sexuality. Of course, we knew that we have this law, and we tried to rephrase questions. Just let me just two mothers are bad for the child. Can you agree or disagree? That homosexuality is disease. Can you agree or no? So of course, from my side, I always thinking about other people and how it could affected them. But I think that it's not a real problem as it could be, and as maybe media cover it. But maybe it's just my case. I doing what I want to do.
I understand. Okay, let me call on Phil for your question.
Hi, Dmitrii. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. It was really great to hear your talk. And I wanted to actually, if you don't mind, go back to one of the things you said at the beginning, where you talked about how LGBT rights are framed a lot as kind of a Western imposition or kind of a foreign import, which is something that we see in many countries. And I was curious, just thinking a little bit, I'd just be curious from your impressions how the LGBT advocacy community is responding to that. How do they challenge that? And then also, how can international movements that support the Russian LGBT community do this sensitively? And I'm thinking back to 2014, I think, the Sochi Olympics, and there were calls in some countries that there should be a boycott of the Olympics. And I remember gay bars were dumping vodka out in other countries. And a lot of Russian activists actually pushed back against those strategies and said that this could create more harm for LGBT communities locally in Russia. And so I was wondering if you could just elaborate a bit more on, how do we go about this foreignness or Westernness frame that the opposition uses?
Yeah. So of course we haven't, like everywhere, we haven't just one community or one gay activist. So a lot of NGOs trying to do something, and maybe you have seen the Pussy Rights gift to Putin's birthday. So they used rainbow flags and go to main administrative buildings like FSB, presidential administration, and they so pick the rainbow flag near the Russian flag on these buildings. So so this is radical view on probably political idea to explain the authorities that nothing Western here, or a lot of people still trying to think that this is mm, not Russian tradition to be in same-sex relationship, and a lot of people still don't know history of Russian sexuality. So it's just an example. One of my lecture in 8th center was homosexuality as traditional sexual orientations. That's something like that. So I think that our communities should work with these definitions, like queer community in America worked with the word queer, for example, and rethink this idea of traditionality and traditional values. Maybe work with these ideas, because we so in Russia and maybe in Poland, in UK, we trying to reinvent Western language towards sexuality, and for ordinary citizens who don't know about their heterosexuality, it's nothing. So they still don't understand our language. And maybe we need to speak in their language, use their words to explain the terms. So
Good. Let me call Colin Johnson.
Hi, yes, thank you so much for this talk. I wanted to press on this public opinion aspect. I was living in Kazan, Russia, in 2013 for the first arrest of an activist under the gay propaganda bill. And what was interesting to me was the way the propaganda bill is framed. I understand it to be utilizing a concern for children. And at that point in time, it was wanting to utilize a conservative understanding of sexuality. It is not meant to be in the public sphere. And so the law had a logic that I think made it sympathetic for a lot of Russians. And when pressed, at least the people I knew in Kazan, they didn't have an opinion on LGBT people or queer people, like you said, a lack of contact, but they approved of the bill. So I was wanting to understand, I understood it to be a framing of the bill to emphasize a more common value, at least in Kazan, but I didn't know if maybe in Moscow or in general, the propaganda bill utilizes another kind of framework in this way.
Yeah, probably I have the answer, or one of the answers. So they are afraid for their children. So they are afraid that their children could be homosexual. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them think that their sexual orientation could not change under the influence of propaganda. But these people really think that just rainbow curtains, for example, could make your children gays. So this is really psychological issue, and probably because of mainstream media, people are really afraid of this, and I think why people support this law, just because they could totally be friendly to their gay friends, for example, but they will be afraid for their children. So it's slightly different situation with friends and children. So maybe it's work like this.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good. I have a question from Clinton Glenn, would ask me to read it because his mic isn't working so well. So I'm going to try and read this to you, Dmitrii. Clinton says, yesterday, it was announced that the amendments to the family code proposed by Mussolini that would further restrict LGBTQ rights did not pass. And the draft laws are also not supported by the Presidential Council for Civil Society and Human Rights. So Clinton asks do you think this moment represents a pause or a stop in persecuting LGBT people in Russia? Is that a signal that there's some easing down on the persecution, or is that not the case?
So this law planned to be discussed in State Duma in September. They still haven't their first reading of this law in State Duma, in Russian Parliament. And they have a lot of negatives reviews from the government and, as you said, other institutions. So probably it's will not pass, and they're trying to burn this this idea, because it's not only about same-sex marriages. It's about children. It's about family violence. Because according to new Russian constitutions, this is part of state, so this is state resource, and Mizulina's federal court trying to give Russian children to their parents, so the law more, how to say, less restrictive to parents. So, for example, you can do whatever you want with children, and the state shouldn't interfere to the private life of these families.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's turn to Chris Neff.
Hi, Dmitrii. This was extraordinary. Thank you so much for doing it. And if there's any way that I'm sure Andrew would say the rest of us can be supportive, please let us know. Okay, good. I just had a really short bit here. I don't know if you're familiar with Lena Hansen at the Copenhagen School and her research on, she does IR research, but she does it specifically on including the concept security as silence. Here she looked at bushwives in the global South and the penalty that they assumed for being public about their lives. And this was used in pictures, language, discourse, and methodology as a way to look at small n studies of people for whom, if they acknowledged their lives, would be punished. And so as you were going through your presentation, I thought of security as silence and your look at discourse. This might be, I don't know if this is useful, but I thought I'd toss it out there.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, let's take a question, Amy Bishop.
Yeah, thank you. Ami Bishop, actually, is how.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. No problem. Dima, thank you so much for your presentation. I work with Outright Action International. I'm just curious. We've been looking at the impact of censorship on LGBTI movements, and I wonder if you could talk about the ways that the anti-propaganda law has constrained the movement, progress in the movement in Russia, and particularly online censorship, sort of how activists are getting around some of the censorship issues. Not to mention actually also being able to reach out to young people who may be struggling, since there's now this 18 and over sort of way of avoiding some of the ramifications of the law. Thank you.
So we have a lot of problems with censorship, not only on LGBT content. So of course, a lot of people use VPN here. If we talk about culture, we had some cases of censorship of films when the gay scene was cut from the film. But the funny story of this propaganda law, we started to discuss homosexuality more and more and more. So when someone told you don't talk about this, you want to talk more. So, and a lot of people started to looking for information for so about homosexuality, for example. And just in few years, we had a lot of podcasts, we have a lot of new online medias, we have some independent, of course, and small small medias. So somehow it working. Can I say that? So of course, if we go to main Russian state television, of course, a lot of channels, for example, this is state channels, and they're they're not so open in discussing homosexuality. But in social media, for example, we have a lot of examples of accounts, channels. So we have a Telegram. This is like Russian WhatsApp, and they have a channel function, so you could write your posts, and you have your channel, your own channel, and there in Telegram we have a lot of queer channels, gay channels, lesbian channels with a lot of followers.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Great. Let's take Liz Barker.
Thank you very much. Speaking to you from the parliament that taught the world how to make legislation like this and poison the whole world with it. And that's why we have in the British Parliament the All-Parliamentary Group on Global LGBTI Rights. And it's why we have charities like Give Out that fund human rights and LGBT rights defenders around the world. I have two questions, I think. First of all, is there any influence that can be brought to bear on the Russian government through international platforms, the UN, for example, or do they just ignore them? And the second thing is, to what extent is the Russian church or the Russian churches involved in what is a fairly classical tactic across the whole world, including America, of setting up an atmosphere of fear, principally around issues to do with children and LGBT plus people?
So about influence, we just have case with Angela Merkel and Putin. So it was first day after in news about Chechnya, and we met with activists and academics in Moscow to discuss this problem. And one guy, he is Russian, but he lives in Germany. He said, I'm from Germany, from one NGO, and I can do that. Angela Merkel will call Putin about this. We said, good luck if you want to, if you can. So because for us it was really strange when some person from NGO could call leader. So and a few days later, Angela Merkel called Putin about Chechnya. So answering the question about influence, it's possible. And Putin, for example, he always talked about this influence, and that he forced to be more tolerant, that so it forced Putin be more tolerant, because I don't know how to say it correctly.
Yeah, does he have to look good in the world? Does it bother him that his image?
Yeah, maybe because when he commented propaganda law, he always talked about human rights, and that he wanted to be a human rights defender. So yeah. And the second question about Russian Church, so it depends on the region, because Orthodox Church, of course, the main church in Russia, but we have other religions here. And another funny fact from a public poll, so that about we have like 70% of Russian who think that they're Orthodox, but 30% of them don't believe in God. So going to the church is the practice, is the part when you want to do something, you want to pass exam, for example. You go to the church, you pray for the exam, and next day you go to pass exam. So it's nothing similar like USA situation. Religions play a role kind of different way. They always have a lot of hate speeches toward LGBT community. But a few months ago, they had a festival of traditional values, and they asked one celebrity to sing to them. And from the sing, the celebrity told the public that you should respect LGBT people, and the people said, okay.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Dmitrii. We really appreciate your time today and your research. I should let everybody know that a video recording of this will be up online pretty soon after we're closed today. So if you want to share that with your colleagues in your networks, please do. I also wanted to let you know that next week we have a conversation with Andrea Jenkins, who is the Vice President of the Minneapolis City Council, and the only African-American trans woman in elected office in the US today. And obviously Andrea sits at the intersections of a number of different important issues in American politics. So we're gonna have an hour's conversation with her next Thursday. Thank you again, Dmitrii. Keep safe, keep well. Everybody keep safe and well, and hopefully we'll see you all next week. So thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.